start now. Click start to go live to attendees.
Yes, please.
Hi Gemma, I think you're live now.
I think we are. Good morning or afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you can see and hear us now. Apologies for the delay. We've had some serious technical issues this morning. I'm not entirely sure what's been causing that. So apologies and thank you for bearing with us. We are also having some trouble getting some of our presenters online. So we will try and resolve that issue as we go through. So we'll keep this very brief today. This is just about alternatives to private car use. So we're going to give you a very top line information on the alternatives surrounding electric scooters, e-bikes, trains, buses, trams, etc. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Adam at Transport for West Midlands, and he will talk you through the options that are there.
So first of all, can everyone see and hear me and see my screen?
I can hear you, Adam.
Right, so we'll carry on. Bear the technical difficulties. So afternoon, everyone. So my name's Adam Harrison. I work for Transport for the West Midlands. Just here, as Gemma said, talk about the alternatives to the car, but also kind of how we're as TFWM supporting the kind of rollout of the Clean Air Zone. So for those that don't know anything about Transport for the West Midlands, so we are the kind of transport arm of the West Midlands Combined Authority. So the Mayor of the West Midlands is the kind of chair of the Combined Authority. Bear with me, I'm just seeing a few chats, see if anyone can. Yeah, so as I said, we're here to kind of support the successful rollout of the Clean Air Zone. A bit of information about what we do. So a kind of overseeing level, we kind of assess and plan the region's future transport needs, and that's tackling big challenges, things like climate change, but also clean air, and we do that through a local transport plan. So we adopted our current local transport plan back in 2016, and we're working on a new plan, and that's working really closely with the City Council, building on the ambitions that set out in the Birmingham Transport Plan. But some of the other things that we do are more operational and delivery focused. So we kind of that kind of organisation that tries to glue all the bits of the transport system together. So we've been doing that the last few months and last year through the pandemic, make sure that people that need to get around the kind of uncertain times during that we did that. But also we kind of provide some of the kind of public transport branding, information, the physical and digital infrastructure, so stops, real-time information, and also some of the smart ticketing payments. So if you've ever heard of Swift, that's done by TFWM. So I'll just quickly come on to some of the kind of things that we're doing to help with the Clean Air Zone. So this is pretty much around boosting the kind of transport investment and capacity in Birmingham. And this is really around the kind of 5 kind of key areas. So firstly, around new rail stations. So we're building the kind of first new set of stations that have been built in Birmingham for over a generation. So currently we are rebuilding the 2 stations kind of in line with the Commonwealth Games. So that's at Perry-Barrow and universities, making those fit 21st century. But also we're boosting the kind of capacity by building 3 brand new rail stations on the Camp Hill line. So that's a key thing about supporting those public transport movements into the city centre, but also around the city. Another key thing that we're doing is obviously we're extending the metro. So the west side, what we call the west side extension, is final phases of construction. So that's going along Broad Street up to Edgbaston. So that's giving that extra connectivity in the city centre. So hopefully during the summer, the autumn, we'll start properly testing the trams with hopefully operational services by the end of the year. We've also started, and this is kind of supporting long-term stuff around connecting to HS2 and getting the wider connections to Digbeth and the east of the city, is around the east side extension. So advanced construction work started in April. But also one of the big things we're doing, it's not in Birmingham, but it is that kind of thing about Birmingham as a city, is the heart of the West Midlands, is building the Wednesbury Briley Hill extension. So this is making sure that we kind of get wider connectivity to the Black Country, so people who live in the Black Country can get into Birmingham and access jobs, employment, but also the kind of the leisure activities, as that hopefully with how the kind of economy picks up and recovers post pandemic. Another key thing is what we call Sprint. So this is a bus rapid transit system. So we're building these routes on the A34 and the A45, so the Walsall Road and the Coventry Road. So we're hoping that this is a kind of a big step change in our what we call the mass transit network for Birmingham, but also for the West Midlands. And with that delivery is ongoing, and hopefully the first phases will be completed by next year in time of the Commonwealth Games. And a key part of this is obviously working with operators and with the City Council to ensure that this system is a zero emission fleet. So that's bringing forward some hydrogen buses and adding extra capacity on the network. But also this is backed up by what we call an enhanced partnership. So this is ensuring that we get all parties involved signed up to the kind of quality of Sprint, but also things like ticketing and stop infrastructure. Some of the key areas that we're doing is around boosting bus capacity and bus speed. So we are working with the City Council on cross-city bus routes. So for the 87, 82 routes and the 50. So part of some of the technical work of the Clean Air Zone highlighted that we needed more cross-city routes. Not everyone is going into the city centre. People go around it and through it. So there was a real gap that needed to kind of be plugged there. So we managed to work with the City Council and Department of Transport and Operators to get some money to kind of build these new routes. So these will improve speed, reliability and overall customer experience. And some of this will include some kind of bus only roads, junction upgrades and better waiting facilities. Furthermore, there's some also kind of greater priority going on in the city centre in terms of bus priority and also on the Alcester Road. And going forward, the government have published a new, what we call they called it Bus Back Better. So it's a new national bus strategy. So there's even more opportunities kind of working with government and the council and bus operators in partnership to make sure that we kind of get a 21st century bus network for Birmingham. Some other areas that are kind of going on, so it's in the press this week, so the West Midlands Cycle Hire Scheme, so it's officially rolled out across Birmingham on this Monday, which is the 24th. So over this year, we'll see a rollout of 1,500 bikes by the summer, and 10% of those will be e-bikes, and we're investigating to expand that system even further. And it's already been live as a trial back in March in Sutton Coldfield. I'll just quickly touch on to the kind of the next part, and this is around what we call the integrated transport system. So this is the kind of stuff that hopes to bring all the infrastructure together. So this is things like smart ticketing, information, but also some new things around some of the new services that help support things like the Clean Air Zone, but also some things that we rolled out during the pandemic response. So I'll just quickly talk about fares. So we're working quite closely with National Express around, obviously with the pandemic, is freeze fares from June this year. But also as during this year, we're working on what we call Swift Go. So this is a kind of a fare capping system on all bus operators by the summer. And that's a really good system around using the Swift platform and Swift tickets to make tickets cheaper, but also easy to use, because we know that with multiple operators and multiple tickets, it can sometimes become quite confusing. And then during the next year, we're looking to roll Swift onto rail and also expand the Swift platform around car parking, but also around bike share. So this is using the Swift ticket platform as that multi kind of modal supporting payment system, but also we're kind of doing some things in the background about trying to enhance our website around new ticket finder functions and trying to make things easy for customers. I'll quickly touch on this is kind of the last bit around some of the future transport services. So for those that don't know, the West Midlands really is the kind of heart of the UK transport innovation activity, but also the heart of the network. So we're kind of what they call one of the first future transport zones. So this is kind of trialing new technologies and new services. So the e-scooter trial was trialled here, probably one of the first places in the country, and that's why. But also what we're trialing as well, working with the City Council, is what they call mobility credits. So this is around receiving grants for can use for travel credits or to purchase a new vehicle to kind of meet emissions standards of the cars by scrapping a vehicle, which is quite an innovative thing that started off in Coventry, but I think that's quite a new thing around giving that incentivization to people to kind of get rid of their car and to use some of those credits to potentially use public transport or some of these new services. And we're looking to kind of develop a new transport services app. So that's one app for everything. So that's very much in development at the minute, but we think that's a really important thing to kind of support a lot of this activity as well. But also as well, we know when the Clean Air Zone comes in and some of the other construction activity that's going on in the city, that we need something in place to kind of manage traffic flow and keep things moving and respond to any incident. So we've built a regional transport coordination centre, which is based in Birmingham, and this is bringing transport operators and other authorities together to make sure that we kind of make sure that the transport network functions and flows as best as it can and responds to any kind of incidents that we have. So that was, sorry, if hopefully everyone could see that and hear that. It was very much a bit of a whistle-stop tour in terms of what TFWM is doing now and over the next few years. I think, just summarised, I think we're trying to make sure that we work together with the City Council and everyone else on this call to kind of build a lasting transport legacy. And this is building on some of the experience that we've had during the pandemic, hopefully a successful Clean Air Zone, Commonwealth Games, and hopefully this builds on to a new local transport plan that we're producing and hopefully publishing soon. So I hope that was okay. So I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Adam. That was great. If you have any questions during the course of this presentation, please put them in the Q&A box on the right-hand side and we will answer them as we go along as best we can. We are continuing to have a few technical problems, so apologies if you are experiencing difficulties. Up next, we've got Chris Coyle, the Bicycle Mayor for Birmingham, who's going to talk about E-Bike Brum and the options with cycling. So I'm going to hand over to Chris now.
Hi, everyone. Just one moment. I'm just trying to make sure I can share the screen correctly. Can everyone see the screen? Moment.
Not yet, Chris.
Not yet. Okay.
It's still just you.
Okay, I shall try again. Apologies. I should be one moment. Okay. Can everyone see that now?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, Gemma, for asking me to present here today. I'm here to talk about alternatives to using the car in relation to cleaner air in Birmingham. I'm Bicycle Mayor of Birmingham, but also director of E-Bike Brum, which is a not-for-profit organisation, and we deliver a lot of community-based cycling services. So we deliver services for young people in terms of engagement with young people and trying to incentivise them to use bikes instead of cars for short journeys, but also built that into quite a comprehensive programme in terms of delivering employment opportunities and opportunities and gateways into sporting activities and leisure-based activities and for opportunities to socialise. So we run all those from our cycle cafe in Erdington, North Birmingham, and we run cycling sessions across the community. So as I outlined there, for young people, but also we do sessions such as women-only groups, introductory cycling sessions to build confidence, and also right through to active ageing. So specific sessions for older people to get back involved with cycling, and that is predominantly through the use of our free e-bike loans. And how we sustain the organisation, along with funding support from various organisations, is we sell bikes and e-bikes, and that allows us to return those profits from those sales back into our community-based programs. So on to the reasons for cycling, and looking at why we should look at cycling as an option to travel, especially for short journeys under 5 kilometres. 60% of our journeys currently under 5 kilometres are taken by car, and if we're to reach the targets set out in the climate emergency by 2030 and 2050, we really have to look at halving those journeys. So from a health perspective, a recent report from Sustrans highlighted that if we doubled cycling participation every 8 years until 2040, that 34,000 incidences of life-threatening conditions could be prevented. So it gives you an outline of the kind of health benefits that cycling provide, and the spin-off benefits in terms of burdens on organisations like the NHS, how it can reduce those burdens significantly. It improves cardiovascular function, so as an aerobic exercise, it strengthens the heart, it lowers blood pressure, which means the heart is functioning much better. It reduces the resting heart rate, so that's a great improvement in terms of overall health. It improves muscle strength and tone, which if you develop more muscle, you help to burn body fat more efficiently and strengthen joints. Increase mental well-being, so we all know that being out close to nature helps with good mental health, and also combining that with physical activity really makes a powerful combination. And this is something we can incorporate into our daily routine in terms of cycling to and from work. And all of these health benefits will be enjoyed if that is undertaken. So in terms of increased energy and weight loss, lots of calories burnt through cycling, up to 1,000 calories an hour. So if the exercise is vigorous exercise, then lots of calories to burn. So weight loss is an added benefit and a health improvement. So again, if this is incorporated into your daily routine, it can really help from a health perspective. Definitely reduces stress and helps with sleep. And also it's a great family activity. So as an overall benefit and a health benefit, it's really the obvious choice for us all to start looking at from a health perspective. From an environmental perspective, driving a car is around 13 times the carbon dioxide emissions per kilometre as opposed to cycling. Electric cars reduce that by quite a significant amount, but nowhere near the amount of cycling and e-biking. So an interesting chart here to look at is the huge difference between traveling to and from work, let's say by car, and then by bike. And if you look at it in terms of the overall carbon dioxide emissions per kilometre, cycling comes out the best of all, even above walking. So lots of metrics used to look at this and how it's worked out. It includes things like the manufacture of the bikes, manufacture of cars, also includes things like food consumption to cycle. So it really has thought about everything involved in terms of greenhouse gases. And as I said earlier, the targets that we need to reach by 2030, I know in simple terms, we have to halve all our journeys taken by car. So this gives a good example of why we really need to start thinking about looking at the bike as a very significant sort of form of transport in Birmingham, and how it will help everyone around us and the environment. So to go on to which bike to look at in terms of what your needs are and what can you buy, you can split it into sort of 4 main areas. You can look at commuting bikes, and these tend to be very comfortable bikes, very upright position. They come in a number of forms. This is a Dutch style commuting bike. This can be in normal traditional bike form, or it can be in electric form as well. And if you're looking for those sort of journeys around 5 to 20 kilometres, 0 to 20 kilometres, this is a great option to look at. It's very comfortable, and will always you'll always enjoy the miles on that kind of product. You can move on then to something like an e-mountain bike as an option, which gives much more varied uses. You could use it to commute to work, but you could also use it in your leisure time on canal towpaths and off-road trails. They tend to be a little bit heavier because they have larger motors and larger batteries, but the use is very varied, so that's an option to look at. If you're limited in space, you can look at a folding bike, again, traditional or electric. The great thing about these, and the feedback we've had from these, is a lot of people are reluctant to sort of use them initially. As soon as they try them out, they come back at almost 100%, enjoyed their time on them. So definitely something to look at if you want to pop the bike in a car and go somewhere further afield and you have limited space at home. And then you have road bikes, again, traditional or electric. If you want to go, your distances are a little bit greater and you like riding at the weekends and things, this is another one to consider for those kind of uses. Just to mention here that we work with a not-for-profit organisation in terms of a cycle to work scheme, and that is run by an organisation called the Green Commute Initiative, and their aim is to educate commuters on how to get out of cars and onto bikes, and how to do that through a cycle to work scheme. So anyone who's looking to purchase a bike through a cycle to work scheme, this is the one that E-Bike Brum uses, and it would be probably to look at employers and the cycle to work schemes that they're using, and just to notify them that this one exists. As it is a social enterprise and not-for-profit organisation, it's a great one to look at. And it also has no limit to the scheme. So some schemes were limited to £1,000, but this one, as it operates under bikes and e-bikes, the limit is open. So there is no limit to the scheme at all in terms of the salary sacrifice and cycle to work scheme. And just very quickly on how to find us, we're E-Bike Brum, and the website is exactly that, www.ebikebrum.com. You can find us on all sort of usual social media channels. There's our Twitter handle, Facebook and Instagram, and we're based in North Birmingham at the minute, but we are due to be expanding hopefully into different areas. So please do look out on the social media channels for any information about opening times, offers on products, and do contact us if you need any further information on cycling to work or cycling within Birmingham in your leisure time. And of course, do drop in for a coffee and a chat, and we'll be more than happy to give you more advice based around cycling in Birmingham.
That's great, thank you, Chris. At this point, we were due to be joined by Voi Scooters. Unfortunately, we're having some technical issues, as I mentioned earlier at the start of this call. We do have a copy of their presentation. I don't think it's right that I try and do justice to them. So what I'm proposing for Voi and for National Express, who are also due to be joining us today, is we will host a separate webinar with them. We will issue a recording of that, the same as we're recording this webinar. And what we will do is we will circulate a copy of both recordings to everybody who's registered for today's webinar. I do absolutely sincerely apologise. Apologies, I should probably put a camera on at least as well and show my face. I do apologise for the technical problems we've encountered today. It's been completely beyond our control, I'm afraid. So I'm conscious that I know Voi Scooters and National Express were keen to be involved. They have got presentations, and I'm sure they are an option that a lot of you will be considering. So I will reschedule a webinar in the next day or two. Hopefully you can join that with Voi and National Express. If you can't, we will record it, the same as this meeting is being recorded, and we will circulate that to everybody who's registered. In the meantime, if you do have any questions for Adam at Transport for West Midlands or Chris from E-Bike Brum, please pop them in the chat on the right hand side. We will circulate contact details for both of them. We do have one that's just come in for you, Chris. Why e-bike? Doesn't that suggest you're only an electric bike organisation? Chris, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so just I didn't give the full name there. Just due to the presentation. I'm not sure if I've frozen, so I'm just going to wait a moment. The full name of the cafe is the E-Bike Brum Cobble Cycle Cafe. So the E-Bike Brum side is very much the not-for-profit and community-based side. Just to give you a small bit of background on that, I have been involved with elite cycling for about 20 years now, I would imagine, and I was introduced to e-bikes about 10 years ago in Spain, as I train every winter in Spain, and I saw them as a game changer in terms of the mobility that was being produced by them. And to give you an example, when I used to train there 10 years ago, there was no one on the promenade at all. It would be empty in the winter months. And then over the years, I watched more and more people emerge on e-bikes, and more from the older generations as well. So I was really passionate about setting up an organisation that would increase access to cycling for all of the community in Birmingham. And e-bikes are a great way to introduce people to cycling who might have low fitness levels or health issues. It really does level the group activities that we do. So that's very much where the E-Bike Brum side is focused. But there's also the Cobble Cycle Cafe, which is focused very much on people who are interested in cycling as a whole, in the social weekend environment, group rides and things like that. So we do supply the whole range of bikes, traditional bikes and electric bikes. The E-Bike Brum side sustains our community-based projects, and it's very much a big part of what we do in the community. So I hope that kind of answers the question in terms of the name in E-Bike Brum and why it's considered as that.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any other questions? I'll give it a couple of minutes just in case anything comes in. With regards to the Clean Air Zone, that is obviously going live on Tuesday. So from Tuesday, charges will apply if you're in a non-compliant vehicle. We are encouraging people where possible to consider behaviour change, adopt public or sustainable transport where you can. Air pollution is a national health emergency and we do all need to be playing our part. So hopefully some of the options raised by Chris and Adam today have given you something to think about. We will catch up with Voi and National Express shortly. We have had another question come in as I've been chatting. I didn't catch the name of the first presenter on Transport for West Midlands. Thank you for a great presentation. It's great to see you're adopting the same scheme on mobility credits as Coventry. Would you consider moving one step further forward? Rather than discouraging old car users through providing mobility credits, would you like to encourage people to use other means than cars, say cycling, walking, e-scooters? A city region-wide scheme would be preferable rather than leaving it to operations like E-Brum. Another great presentation, by the way. It can be tiered, giving different types of adopters different credits. And those credits can be redeemed for use on public transport in the West Midlands. Adam, is that something that you can pick up?
Yeah, so thanks for the question, Jeff. So I'll introduce myself again because it was a bit kind of rushed. So my name's Adam Harrison. So I work in the policy and strategy team at Transport for the West Midlands. So on mobility credits is actually the Coventry scheme and the Birmingham scheme are quite closely aligned. So they run through the same kind of team and programme at TFWM. And when you talk about mobility credits, you can potentially look at those options around cycling and e-scooters, but at the Coventry scheme is only a trial at the minute, so it's very small scale and it's quite targeted. So we want to see how that performs before we do that wider rollout, because obviously that comes with a cost. So we want to make sure that people value that scheme and it works. So that's why we've chosen the approach that we've done. But I think you are right, absolutely, that in terms of encouraging people from the kind of purchase of vehicles to kind of those more sustainable options. But I think, not to speak for Chris and his organisation, that I work quite closely with the walking and cycling team at TFWM, and those kind of businesses and third sectors are absolutely critical for that kind of wider rollout of changing in behaviours. It can't really be just done by us as TFWM and the City Council. It's a kind of lots of different various organisations need to be involved.
Thank you, Adam. Hopefully that does answer the question. As a City Council, we are looking to be promoting walking and cycling, etc. more and bringing schemes together, which is why we're trying to host events like this and bring the relevant organisations together so that we can work together to provide solutions to some of the concerns that have been raised during this CAS consultation period. Are there any more questions? What we will do is I will be in touch with Voi and National Express. We will sort out a revised date so that we can host a webinar with those two, giving some information. We will send you all a copy of that date and time, and also of the recording in case you're unable to join us. A copy of today's recording will also be emailed to you, and we will add to the Brumbury's website so that you can share with family and friends if you think it's been useful. I will circulate contact details for Adam and Chris's organisations so that you can find out more. This is just meant to be a top line event today to give you an overview. For more information, obviously, we will send you the details to contact them direct. If there are no further questions, I'll give it just one more minute. I'd like to thank you all for joining. Thank you very much for bearing with us. We are working from home. We are experiencing technical problems that couldn't be anticipated. So thank you for bearing with us during that time, and apologies for the delay, and apologies that we have lost 2 of the speakers. We will rearrange that, like I say. So if there's no other questions, thank you all very much for attending. Stay safe, have a good day, and enjoy the bank holiday weekend. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks all.